Hello viewers! Are you sometimes having trouble shifting your manual transmission into gear? Or you may notice weird grinding noises while doing so. Either way, you're probably wondering what might be causing this issue and whether should you worry. So to answer these questions, we'll explain how a manual transmission works, what might be causing problems with it, and lastly, how to fix them. And all that's to come in this video, but first, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification button. Before diving into likely causes and possible fixes, let's briefly explain how a manual transmission works. Despite needing a bit more skill than automatics, manual transmissions are still easy to use. In essence, you just press the clutch pedal, shift the lever into desired gear, and then smoothly release the clutch. But what happens behind the scene while you're doing this is a bit more complex. Starting from the engine side, we have a clutch assembly. In most cases, it has three components: a clutch plate, pressure plate, and a release or throw-out bearing. The clutch plate transfers the power from the engine's flywheel to the gearbox. The pressure plate firmly presses these two components together to achieve sufficient friction. And when you press the clutch pedal, the throw-out bearing pushes the pressure plate and separates the clutch from the flywheel. The clutch pedal and the release bearing are linked with a hydraulic system, or in older cars, a wire cable. Next, we have the transmission, or the gearbox as it's sometimes called. It has an input shaft with a clutch plate at one end and the output shaft on the other. Between these two shafts there are sets of gears, with only one being engaged at a time, depending on what the driver has selected. Most cars today have 5 or 6 gears plus reverse. There are also hub sleeves, which connect the selected gear and the shaft on which it rotates. In addition, modern gearboxes have so-called synchronizer rings, whose job is to match the speed of the gears and hubs during their engagement, which ensures smooth gear shifts. Lastly, we have a shift lever inside the car, which is used to select the gear by pushing it into a certain position. This lever is connected with cables or rods with a gear selector at the top of the transmission. Having learned how the manual transmission works in theory, now it's time to see what might be causing difficulties while shifting into gear. Most cars today have a hydraulically operated clutch mechanism linking the clutch pedal and the throw-out bearing. At one end, just near the pedal itself, there is a master cylinder that serves as a pump that pressurizes the hydraulic fluid. There is also a slave cylinder on the transmission side, which pushes the throw-out bearing or the lever connected to it. This is a pretty robust configuration, with leaking being the only usual failure point. Besides fluid loss, this also allows air into the hydraulic system, which creates bubbles and prevents sufficient clutch disengagement. With that happening, the clutch pedal may feel spongy, especially when pressed frequently in a short period. In some older cars, the clutch is operated using a wire cable instead of hydraulics, which may stretch out or seize over time. Again, clutch engagement will be affected, with more effort needed to press the pedal. Next, we have the clutch plate, which, like brake pads and rotors, is a wear and tear item. Every time you set off from a standstill, a thin layer of its abrasive surface gets shaved off. Over time, these high friction pads will become too thin, which may result in issues with clutch's operation. Symptoms you may expect here include, besides difficult gear shifts, juddering when releasing the clutch pedal in first gear, and even a transmission slip under higher loads. If this is happening, you're likely to see bluish scorch marks on the flywheels and pressure plate's surface. These are telltale signs of overheating caused by excessively slipping clutch. Going down the list of suspects is the gear engagement mechanisms and the linkages that connect the gear lever to it. Now, this is not something that will cause issues in a rear-wheel drive car, as these have engines and transmissions mounted lengthways, with the gearbox directly below the gear lever or near it. In front-wheel drive cars, however, the engine and transmission are mounted sideways. As a result, there is quite a distance between the gearbox and the gear lever inside the car. Consequently, the cables or levers that connect these two are long and may get disconnected or misaligned with time. This will make shifting into some gears difficult or even impossible, with the gear changes feeling sloppy and disconnected. The role of lubrication is vital for any mechanical assembly, and manual transmission is no different. Besides having to be filled up to a certain level, the transmission oil inside has to meet specifications set by the manufacturer. In addition, this lubricant, like all others, has to be changed on a regular basis. Otherwise, the lubrication may not be sufficient, which may cause overheating and increased mechanical wear of the transmission's moving components. If this happens, you may notice a high-pitched, whining noise from the engine bay while driving. If all of the above checks out, there is, in essence, only one more thing to check: the gearbox itself. As said, this is a complex mechanical assembly with many components made to close tolerances. And if any of them is damaged or misaligned, you'll experience a variety of transmission issues, including harsh gear changes. The most common failure point is the synchronizer rings, which can wear out with time. Vehicles used in heavy city traffic are more likely to have this issue, with second gear usually taking the biggest hit. With worn synchronizer rings, you're likely to hear loud grinding noises when shifting into the affected gear. Lastly, a foreign object might prevent the clutch from being fully pressed. As a result, the clutch will not fully disengage, which will consequently cause shifting issues. The obstruction in question can be something like a thick carpet rolled under the clutch pedal. Daft as it may sound, this does happen, especially in cars with rubber liners over thick factory carpets. Obviously, it's easy to check if this is causing the issue by removing these additional carpets. With theory and probable causes taken care of, we can now discuss what you could do to solve the annoying gear shift problem. When having gear shifting issues, checking the transmission fluids level and its condition is the first thing to do. If needed, top it up, or if it hasn't been changed in a while, replace it. As most transmissions will only take 1 or 2 bottles of fluid, this will not be expensive, so it's worth giving it a try. Just make sure to get the correct transmission fluid for your vehicle. You can find out what type and specifications are needed in the owner's manual. The next place to check is the hydraulic clutch system. Start by looking for leaks around the clutch cylinders and the connecting pipes. You can also try to bleed the clutch hydraulics 1 or 2 times. If the issue disappears, there is likely a leak somewhere in the hydraulic system which needs to be fixed. If neither of the above hasn't helped, checking the clutch assembly is the next logical step. To do this, however, you'll have to remove the gearbox first. While this is not the simplest of the jobs, it's still quite doable if you're reasonably skilled. With the clutch out, look for any signs of damage, such as mechanical wear, scratches, scorches, and so on. Lastly, we have the gearbox, which sadly isn't something you could fix yourself. Truth be told, many experienced mechanics or even authorized dealers won't take on this job. So if your gearbox is damaged, you're left with 2 choices. Find a workshop specialized in transmission rebuilds or source another used gearbox. That would be all about manual transmissions and gear shift issues for now. Hopefully, what we covered here has helped you figure out what's causing your problem and, more importantly, that you managed to fix it. If so, give us a big thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our channel. But if not, or if you're still unsure what might be causing the issue, leave us a question in the comments box. Or go to our website mechanicbase.com and look for more detailed automotive repair guides. Bye!